welcome to another episode of the Knitting Jungle podcast. My name is Sarah, in case you're new here, and I live right outside Boston, Massachusetts. On this channel, I usually like to talk about everything that I've been knitting on, and I also like to do machine knitting, crochet, and sewing. Today's episode is going to be one of those regular podcast episodes. My last one was kind of a year-end wrap-up video where I talked about every sweater I knit in the past year. And thank you so much for all the love I got on that video. It was so heartwarming and you guys just really made my day, and thank you so much for all your nice comments. And without further ado, let me announce the yarn giveaway ultimate winner. Okay, so a big congratulations goes out to Ann Parsons 6238. So you are the winner of the grand yarn giveaway. And could you please send me an email? My email is up here on the screen and also down in the description box, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so now let's get into the cozy knitting content. So grab your beverage and whatever project you're working on, and let's get started. So I've gotten a lot of knitting done in the past few weeks. We've had sub-zero temperatures and a blizzard, and so there just hasn't been much to do besides knitting, which I'm definitely not mad about. So my first finished object that I'll be talking about is actually the elephant in the room, which I didn't realize at the beginning of the video. So this is my finished Danish nightshirt, and I know a lot of people were asking about this in my previous video, hoping to see it in my finished projects of 2025, but I just didn't get there in the end. So it turned into my first finished project of 2026. I was just working on these sleeves for so long. And yeah, I was able to finish it, so that's all that matters in the end, right? So this is a Danish nightshirt. This is based on the book, or it's a self-drafted pattern based on the book by Vivian Hoxbro called Traditional Danish Sweaters, 200 Stars and Other Classic Motifs from Historic Sweaters. So I talk about this a lot in my previous two regular podcast episodes about the history of the Danish nightshirt and Vivian Hoxbro, but if you want to learn even more, there are a lot better videos on YouTube out there by Fruity Knitting and I think Roxanne Richardson if you want to learn more about the history and everything. But basically it's just a fitted 3/4 length sleeve sweater that's also cropped, and I just love how this turned out. This is kind of like a blouse because it's really fitted, and I don't have anything like that in my wardrobe yet, and I'm finding this a really versatile piece, and probably even more so once the weather starts to warm up, because I did make it 3/4 length sleeves, mostly out of laziness, but I think it's gonna be kind of practical for when I'm cooking or, really need to do something with my hands, or it's getting a little too warm out and I don't want my whole arm covered. But I really love this open neckline. I find it really hard to find patterns that have this type of shape, which I think is really flattering on me. It's kind of a rounded square type of shape. And how I did that was I just calculated how many stitches across I wanted my neckline to be, and then I wanted a thick shoulder strap area here. So that's maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 stitches wide here. And then I put all those like base measurements into Stitch Fiddle, or like those base stitch counts into Stitch Fiddle. And then I used a star and diamond motif pattern from the Vivian Hoxbro book. And then I just kind of made my own chart. So that's basically the gist of how I came up with this design and how I made this. But there were definitely a lot of bumps in the road. There were so many times where I had to frog back, and I even had to cut my knitting here right at the underarm because I just had increased too much here at the bust area, and there was like a giant flap of extra fabric here. So I just sewed on my sewing machine and cut off the extra fabric. Oh, and someone said I never finished this cut edge here, but someone said I should zigzag stitch to make sure those flaps stay nice and flat and just for extra security, and that was a really good suggestion. And I didn't do it because I've been too lazy, but I just wanted to say that's a really good idea in case you have to cut your knitting and you just want that extra security that nothing's gonna come undone. One of the things I love best about this pattern is that there's no ribbing. Instead of ribbing, there's a beautiful seed stitch pattern that goes all the way around the neckline here. And did I do this? No. And then And then at the hem of the sleeves and the body, I did a checkerboard pattern. And those are all things I didn't come up with on my own. Those are things you can find in Vivian Hoxbro's book from Extant Examples. And there are also some lateral braids that kind of provide a delineation between one section of the pattern and then a new section of the pattern. And then in the body, I think after probably about here, I started decreasing a little bit every round because I wanted a really fitted waistline look. And I think this looks really good with a pair of trousers or over a little summer dress in case that it's getting cold in the evening. At least that's how I plan to wear it, and I think it's really comfortable. This is knit in a 100% Spanish merino yarn, and it's not a soft merino, it's like a rough merino, but it's not itchy to me. And I got it in Barcelona, and the yarn is called Lala Nalu Nadir, and it's a fingering weight yarn, and I knit this on 3mm needles, so you can see why this took me so long to finish. Also, I had to like go back and redo a bunch of things, so that definitely added up in the overall time it took to complete this project. And for the sleeves, I picked up stitches around this whole armhole area. So basically I knit the front and back separately and then join them in the round like over here. And I think I did a provisional cast on right here at the shoulder. So then I did the front like this, and then cast on a bunch of stitches here. And then this was cast on separately, so two separate things here. Then I joined the two front sections together in the front and then knit those flat to here. And then I stopped the front and picked up these provisional stitches for the back shoulder here and did the same thing in the back, and then joined them all in the round for the rest of the body. Hopefully that makes sense. And then for the sleeves, I picked up stitches around the whole armhole area, and here's where I ran into a lot of problems, because another commenter pointed out that I was basically trying to do a short row sleeve cap, but I didn't know what it was called or what I was doing. I was just doing a trial and error type of thing. So I think I was trying to increase the amount of stitches. Okay, so to work the sleeve, I hope this is gonna make sense. I started working just the top 20 stitches, so this right here. Then on every round, I would try to incorporate another stitch from the picked up stitches around the armhole, and trying to find a balance between how many stitches to pick up around the armhole versus how many I didn't pick up, so that I could increase the length the sleeve was getting. Was a really tricky balance, and I don't even know if I'm explaining this, so I'm really sorry that this is really confusing. But there is a book about making short row sleeve caps that this really helpful commenter mentioned, and I'll put this up on down in the description box in case you're interested in drafting your own set-in sleeves in a much better way than I did. So I think I had to frog this 2 or 3 times, then finally I got the pickup rate that I wanted. And then for the rest of the sleeve, I didn't do any decreases because it was already pretty fitted. And then I got lazy with the snowflake motif. So I just did the snowflake motif just here down the center, and then the rest is all stockinette because I knew this was gonna take a while and I don't like doing sleeves that much. Then when I got about here, I was like, okay, I also have really long arms. Usually I have to knit in like a standard knitting pattern. I have to knit the sleeve like 2 or 3 inches longer. So that was my excuse for making a 3/4 length sleeve. So when I got about here, I was like, okay, this is gonna take too long. Let me transition into the checkerboard pattern and have like a nice big cuff situation here. And that is the story of the sleeves and the Danish Nightshirt. Since you can still buy Vivian Hoxbro's book, I'm not gonna share any of the charts I made because I think that would be taking away money from the designer. And also my charts are it's such a convoluted thing that I did, and I didn't really follow, sometimes I didn't even follow my charts, and because I had to go back and forth so much. So even if I were to share exactly or whatever charts I have remaining, I don't think they'd be that helpful. They'd probably just be confusing and, even worse, inaccurate. So I'm sorry about that. But if you're an adventurous knitter, I highly recommend trying to design your own Danish nightshirt. Oh wait, I just remembered. Okay, I found a pattern that is really similar to this, and I will link it here. It's a pattern you can buy. I haven't knit it myself, so I don't know if it's good or not, but it's really similar to this, and then you don't have to worry about drafting it and running into problems basically. So yeah, I totally forgot about that. So hopefully that is a good enough solution in case you want to make your own but don't have the confidence or just don't have the time to draft your own. Ew, cold. Okay, the next thing I finished is this guy right here. I didn't even think I was gonna finish that, but I made it a little bit cropped, so that's probably why. I finished it just last night, so I haven't blocked it or anything. Let me go get it. It's a little tall. Okay, that's better. I sewed this dress form a few years ago, and I realized this would be a great way to display the knits. Looks so good from far away. Okay, this is a beautiful winter sweater. Isn't this looks so cozy. And I know I've said I don't like snowflake patterns, but I really like this. Oh, there's hair all over it. Okay, so this is the Hjemmets sweater, and it's by Lena Holme Samsu and Liv Sandvik Jakobsen. And sadly, you can't get this pattern in the United States, and I'm not even sure. It was originally published in Norway in a book called Kofte Boucle #1 or #2, I think, and I just saw this pattern, and even though I couldn't make it, I decided to zoom in on the picture and just make my own chart in Stitch Fiddle. So I'm so sorry that I picked this pattern that is not easily accessible, but I think if you, Stitch Fiddle is a free program, and if you zoom in, you can make your own design here. And if you think it's, I don't know if you can still buy this book or anything, so I don't think I could give out the chart I made. I don't think that would be ethical, but that is how I did it, so you could try that. This pattern is also, so the chart is the Hjemmets Kofte, but the construction of the original, I think, was a bottom-up steek situation with a steeked sleeve and then a really up-high boat neck thing here, and a drop shoulder, and I know that would be a terrible shape on me, like I'm not gonna like that. So I mashed up this chart with a ziggurat designed by Asa Tricosa, I believe her name is, and she's got a book called The Ziggurat Method, which is basically making a contiguous shoulder construction. So that means it looks like it has a set-in sleeve here, but you don't have to sew in sleeves. You just knit it all at the same time. But the ziggurat method is specifically a set-in sleeve contiguous top-down construction method where you never have to cut the yarn. And I found that to be really, really hard and not worth it at all. Also, when I was doing the hardest part of this, of like just starting the pattern from her book, we had also lost electricity and I was knitting by a headlamp, so I'm sure that didn't help. But when I woke up in the morning, I was looking at what I had done in the sunlight. This whole top section was so busted. This whole left section here was like an inch longer than the right section, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And I have to say, the pattern I used, I wouldn't recommend. It's even if I was knitting this in proper lighting, it was really confusing. And sometimes at the end of the row wouldn't give stitch counts, or like knit, it would say just like knit to the end or knit till to the hole or the space. And I guess I found that too confusing because I just couldn't do it. So then, oh my gosh, all my hair is everywhere. So what I had to do was kind of jerry rig this whole top section before the color work starts. That's where all the problems were. I had to jerry rig all this top section to make them look the same length. So I just did short rows here and there wherever I needed until the two front pieces and the two back pieces looked about the same. And yeah, there was one one section where I had to do like 10 increases, but it kind of blocked out, I think. Like you can't really tell that there's just like a row of 10 increases here out of nowhere. So I think I would try another one of Asa Tricosa ziggurat patterns, but not this one. I'll try it again and in the daylight and see if I can get it to work. But my overall conclusion is that the contiguous construction method, where you're constantly breaking the yarn here and there, it's definitely worth it to sew in those few ends rather than deal with this whole confusing situation and not have to break your yarn. Okay, so my rant about that is over. But I did get there in the end, so I'm really proud of that. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. So you see these little dots here? So the first part of the construction is all this brown stuff up here with no color work. And so I wanted to add these little fleas up here to extend that line just by doing duplicate stitch. So I guess I need to go back in and do that because I totally forgot. Before I talk about this anymore, I want to say that there is a readily available pattern that's really similar to this, and it's by Reindeer Knits, I believe, and I'll put this up on the screen so you can have a look at that one. It has the boat neckline and all that, and I think it's worsted weight yarn, so it'll be a lot faster than this. So with the Hjemmets Kofte, it's knit in worsted weight yarn, but I wanted a really delicate looking pattern, so I chose to use fingering weight yarn, and I did it with Hillesvåg Ask, which is my favorite rustic Norwegian 100% wool non-superwash yarn. And you can actually get this in the US now from Wool & Company, which is so exciting. And this yarn comes in about 1 million colors, so you could use it for any colorwork project and it would be perfect. But the colors I chose are the natural white, and then this, I think this is called yellow brown. I'll put the exact shade numbers up here, I think. And I really like how this turned out. So since I had to use I didn't have to, but I chose to use a fingering weight yarn, the original motif is like this. So I had to add an extra row of this thing here, an extra row of this thing here, because one of my least favorite things in the world is when the yoke design ends right at like in the middle of your boob area. So I like my colorwork to end like at my waist, like once the whole boob area is well out of the way. That's when I like my colorwork to end. So I just extended another repeat of this so that the whole motif would be much wider, like that. And what did I do? That's kind of pretty much it. I just chose what circumference to end up on based on my swatch. So I think this probably has, I think it's a 42-inch circumference here, so I've got plenty of positive ease. It's like semi-fitted. One of my goals for 2026 is to make things that are neither too big nor too small. I made a lot of oversized things last year by accident, and I think I would have been happier with like one size down type of thing. So this was a good success in terms of that. And then when I got to the ribbing, I did a 2x1 rib just to change it up. I'm a little bit tired of 1x1. And I did 1 round of decreases so that the waist wouldn't be too wide and you know when sometimes it starts flowing out like a tent like that? I really didn't want that to happen, so I did knit 5 stitches and then knit 2 together for an entire round. So every 5th stitch or every 6th stitch I did a decrease, and then I did a 3.5 millimeter for the whole body, and for the ribbing I did a 2.5 millimeter, so it got really nice and cinched in there, and the effect is exactly what I was going for, which was really risky because the only 2.5 millimeter circular needle that I have is like for sleeves. It's like really short. And so when I was doing the ribbing on this, it was like this, like all scrunched in, and I was too lazy to put it on barber cord and try it on. So I just kind of cast off and hope for the best, and it worked out. That was really risky, but oh well. And another nice thing about this is that it used pretty much exactly 4 skeins of yarn. So 3 of the yellowish gold brown, and then 1 of the white. I was actually worried about running out of yarn, so what I did, also I did this because I don't like sleeves. So after I split for sleeves, I knit an entire sleeve. Then I did a little bit of the body, not all the way and not starting the ribbon yet. And then I knit the whole second sleeve because I wanted these to be really, really long sleeves, and they did take forever. And then with whatever yarn I had left over, I extended the body length because I knew I wanted it cropped anyway, so the amount it was going to be cropped just depended on how much yarn I had left. So this is how much I have left of the white. Very satisfying, teeny amount. And then I kept knitting with the brown until I had about, this is how much I have left. So I could have kept going, but I just stopped for some reason. I guess I was getting nervous about finishing up the teeny bit of color work in the hem here. Oh yeah, this is a nice little design that is found in the original kofte, where you have one row of a little stripe, what do you call this? Colorwork ribbing. And then you knit another row in just of ribbing in just this, and then the next two rows are the colorwork rows again. And I did the same thing on the sleeve, and I just think it looks so beautiful. Really happy with this. Oh, another thing I didn't mention, this is not found in the original, but I did a 2-color cast on, which I learned how to do on my Troy sweater, which you will have seen in my previous video, and I thought that looked so cool, and I wanted a stripe effect up here at the neckline. So it's a 2x2 rib, and the 2 knit stitches are in white and the 2 purl stitches are in the gold brown, and I think that just gives it an extra special little touch here, just something different, you know. Okay, so that's all I have to say about the Hjemmets Kofte, and now the sun is moving, so I think I have to move my chair a little bit. Okay, moving right along, I made my first conventional sock pattern. I think I started this in did I start this in October? No, I think I started this in December. So I made another sock, but it was a sock from an extant example from Iraq. And this is, I think, what I would consider to be a conventional construction sock. This is the Sunday Stroll sock by Sari Nordland. And if it looks more like a stocking, it's because I have very, very large feet, like a size 12 women's in US sizes, which is like 42 or 43 in European. So this took so long, and I was like, I wish I had smaller feet, just because knitting socks is hard. I chose this because I've always wanted to make one of Sari Nordland's sock patterns. They're so beautiful and detailed. And this one's a relatively new pattern. I think it just came out a few months ago. And it was really well written. I'm a novice sock knitter for sure, and I could understand everything. And the pattern is just so beautiful. It has, I think, like a moss stitch here, a little chevron looking cable here, and after I did about this much, I was able to memorize the pattern, so it went even more quickly. I think this might be a heel flap and gusset construction, but here this is kind of a slip stitch, like a reinforced back of the heel. I don't know what you call this area, but I think it's reinforced because of the slip stitches, so it's extra thick here, kind of like a brioche type of stitch. And then this part of the sock went faster because the bottom part of the foot is just stockinette, but still it took me forever because of my large feet. One thing, everything was going really well, but then at the end, she says once you've knit up until the end of your pinky toe, you should start doing the toe decreases. But the amount of stitches you end up with, so basically I would have had to knit this much longer to reach the amount of stitches at the end for the Kitchener stitch. And so basically you're supposed to have much fewer stitches on the needles for the Kitchener stitch than I did, but I reached the final length of the sock way before then. Hopefully that makes sense. So I guess next time I need to start the decreases maybe where my pinky toe starts. I guess I would try that. And besides that, everything else worked out fit-wise. Oh, actually no, it didn't. So there are 2 sizes in the pattern, like a wider like you cast on either a wide amount of stitches or a more narrow amount of stitches. And I chose the wider one because I have really long feet. But I guess they're not particularly wide because I found the larger size to be a little too loose for me. I mean, it definitely works and is fine, but for the next sock, I'm gonna make the size smaller and just see how that turns out. But for my first sock, I think not too bad. Oh, also, I think this part was supposed to be longer, like maybe another inch, but I thought my sock was already tall enough. And so then I started the whole heel situation maybe an inch sooner than I was supposed to. And I'm glad I did because this took so long. I like working on double pointed needles. I much prefer that to the little short things, whatever you call them. Like really short circular needles or the bendy ones. Sorry, I don't know what they're called. And I use 2.5mm needles for those. And the yarn I've used before, it's one of my favorite fingering weight yarns. It's by the Woolly Thistle and it's their Rambler base, which they developed themselves. And it's a all natural sock yarn. So it's got a nice, it's really tightly spun, so it's durable as a sock yarn. And I held this double and made slippers last year, which I'm still wearing this year. And they're still perfectly intact and they're wearing really nicely. And this one's wearing nicely as well. This is in the natural color of the Rambler yarn. So I have no plans to make the other sock. I think I have second sock syndrome. And I was still wearing this with like another mismatched sock. And I was walking around the house and I was looking down and it wasn't filling me with joy. Like the fact that I had made that sock, I was kind of like, whatever, I don't really care. So I think I'm much more of a slipper knitter than a sock knitter because when I wear my slippers, I'm really happy about that. But for some reason, the sock just fell a little flat. So I'll be lucky if I am able to make the second sock. It's a really nice travel project though. So maybe if I'm stuck traveling somewhere and that's the only project I brought with me, that's probably how I will get the other sock done. Okay, so let's jump back in time a little bit to December. Because it would be so sad if I never talked about this adorable little reindeer. This is so cute and it's so soft. So this is the Dash Away Reindeer by Sarah Elizabeth Kellner. And this is the same designer that did that Victorian house cat book that I was greatly entertained by a few months ago. So I just love making these little anatomically correct animals. I make them all the time as like a little palette cleanser in between my larger projects. And this one did not disappoint. This was made in Drops Alpaca, held together with Drops Alpaca Silk, and that gives it this beautiful fuzzy texture. And I find this alpaca by Drops to be really soft. I've used it many times to make different animals, and it never disappoints. So I did a little bit different color scheme than what she has because I looked at a picture of a reindeer and decided to make the neck area white, I guess. This is already 2 months ago, so I don't remember much. Oh, the best part of these little jingle bells on the harness, which you can just buy on Amazon. I don't want to make too much noise here, but they just come in a little pack like this. And I have plenty to make some more Christmas stuff next year. I'm already done with Christmas, so whatever. But it just has a really pleasing light tinkling noise and my girls love this so much. And I added a little bow because of course everything is cuter with a bow. And I added this little glitter thread in there and I added the gold glitter thread into her nose. So here are the yarns. I just used different combinations of these colors. It's kind of like a cool brown. I think it might be called marzipan. And then these warmer browns here. So these two are the Drops Alpaca, just a very soft, light fingering weight yarn that's already fuzzy by itself. And then this is Alpaca Silk, which is a nice silk mohair alternative, but it's quite a bit thicker than silk mohair. So just be careful of that in case you're making a garment with this. It's gonna fluff up quite a bit. And these are so soft. I have a few natural colors like this in my stash for whenever I need to make a little critter. So the way you start this is in the neck part, and then you just pick up stitches to do the body. And then there are a lot of comments on Ravelry saying the legs were really fiddly and annoying because they're knit in the round on double pointed needles, and they're pretty long, and they have these joints here for the knees. To make those, you have to bind off stitches and then pick up stitches to make this, but it looks so good once you do it. So in my opinion, it's worth it. I don't mind doing this fiddly stuff, but everyone on Ravelry was correct. The legs are definitely fiddly, but that's what makes them look so good. And then to make her posable, I added some floral wire into the legs, so you can have them bend like an emu, or just have them bent regularly at the knees, whatever you like. And this looked so good. Sometimes she was just sitting in our Christmas tree. Sometimes she was on our staircase where I had holly like wrapped around the staircase. And I think it was a great project. I used safety eyes for the eyeballs. I think there's not much more to say about this. I also made some slippers. Ta-da! I made these for my older daughter who's like 7.5, but she's really tall for her age. So I made the largest size of this, which is an 8 to 10-year-old size. And these are called the Mini Teddy Slippers by Frida Råberg. I think I just saw some of her baby slippers on Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the cutest design. So I decided to make some for my daughter because she is sensitive to wool, and I haven't made her a sweater because she also doesn't like to wear sweaters. So I thought I'll make you an accessory slippers instead. So what I love about this is that it has a little platform here, and then the rest of the slipper is knit in this boucle yarn. And I just think that is so cozy and beautiful at the same time. So like I said, I made the size 8 to 10, so this is slightly big on her, but I think she could probably wear this for like 3 years. And I added these little faux suede gripper thingies because our hardwood floors are really slippery, so to make sure she doesn't slip, I just whip stitch those onto the bottoms. These are a little small. I'd probably I didn't even do the other one yet, but just wanted to show you how it looks like before. So you knit this flat, like one long piece, and then you do some amount of increases on either end. And then at the end you seam it together right here. So I really like working things flat because I find it a little bit faster than working in the round. So I love that about this pattern. And you do a double folded over edge right here. So you kind of have to knit into the stitch 7 or 6 rounds below so that it's folded in on itself and knitted. And then after that, you switch yarns to your boucle yarn and then do a bunch of, I think this is all short rows here. And then at the end of that, you can seam it together here and down here. This is all knitted flat. And then the only thing knitted in the round is just this cuff part here. And you could knit that flat too if you wanted. And this is a double folded over thing here. And that's pretty much it. I just used some leftover worsted or DK weight yarn for the brown. I don't even know what this is, but it's really soft and it was the exact shade that I wanted. Because I still have this Isager Boucle. I've used this for like 4 different projects and it's still going strong. I held 2 strands of the Isager Boucle together because it's a little bit thinner than what the pattern recommends, which is the Drops Boucle. But I wanted to use this because I wanted a white slipper. But okay, I have both boucles here so I can show you the difference here. So the white is the Isager Boucle and this tan color is the Drops. So this one, the Drops, is a lot thicker and more curly, like there's more loops per inch, you could say. So that's why I had to hold the white Isager one double. But they're both really nice, they're both really soft. The Isager one is 100% alpaca, And the drops is a blend of wool, alpaca, and maybe nylon. I forget exactly, but I don't think it's an all natural yarn. And the drops one looks a lot nicer in the ball as well. Actually, I already made this again. Oh, and there's also an adult version of this. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So I think this would be a great gift knit. This largest size I think took me about 4 hours per, what's it called? Per slipper. And then this is probably the cutest thing I've ever made. Look at this little booty. So this is the smallest size, the 0 to 6 month size. And this, whenever I look at this, I just like almost tear up because it's so cute. Oh my gosh. I only made one of these, but we have some friends who are having twin girls next month. And I thought this will be a perfect little gift knit for them. So I need to make 3 more of these. I'll make them in different colors. I think one baby will get the white with the brown. And then, because twins should be individuals, I don't think they should have to match necessarily. So for the other kid, I will use the lighter boucle and then a darker base yarn. So that is so cute. This one only took me an hour and a half, I think. And I think I made a mistake and had to undo something. Oh yeah, I had not made this stretchy enough in the bind off, so I thought it was going to be really hard for the parents to get it on the baby's foot. So I redid the bind off and redid the sewing in at the end so that it was stretchier. So even with that hiccup, it took me only an hour and a half to make this. So you could really crank these out if you're a fast knitter, I think. A perfect little gift knit without wasting too much of your selfish knitting time. What else should we talk about? So those are kind of like half finished whips, I guess. And I do have a new whip that I'm working on. I guess I'll talk about it. We probably have time, right? So one of my goals for 2026 is to do more color work because I didn't do enough color work last year is what I've decided. And my favorite type to do is fingering weight color work on tiny needles. So I came across, first I have this beautiful Scottish merino yarn from US Wool, and I even frogged a sweater to harvest some more of that wool. And I had gotten another colorway probably last summer, back before all the tariffs made it pretty expensive to buy this yarn again. So I've been waiting for the perfect Fair Isle colorwork pattern to come my way, basically, so that I could cast something on with these very special yarns. And then I finally found the perfect project for it. And it is called the 1988 Cardigan by Hannah Kim. It's knitted top down with a contiguous shoulder construction, which is one of my favorites. It fits me perfectly. I don't like drop shoulder. Raglan is okay, but contiguous is queen. This is what I have of that so far. Oh, it looks pretty good. These needles are very small to display what's going on here. But this is the back, so it's kind of like this. Careful. Okay. So it's like this. So this is how much I've had done without having to pull on the needles too much and have the stitches pop out. So you started knitting flat, I think, just a little bit. Oh no, I'll have to take it off to show you. So there's a teeny bit of knitting colorwork flat, just to do kind of short row shaping in the back here. This is the back neckline. But the colorwork flat is just this 1x1 type of thing right here, so it's really easy, because my main problem with knitting flat is I get really confused because I can't read my knitting as well. So you just have to do this little part here flat, so you can see the short rows here kind of disappearing into the shoulder area. And then you cast on steek stitches for the arms and a little one for the front neckline. And then you work a little bit of a colorwork chart, and then you open all those 3 steeks after that. So already there are steeks that you open. So that was kind of interesting. I've never done anything like that. And I was actually wondering, because when I was knitting in the round, the circumference was so small that I was like, there's no way it's gonna fit, and I was getting really worried. But then once I cut open the center steek, I realized that these little panels, which were so close together here, were actually gonna be like the side neckline here. So I showed a video of what I'm talking about in case that's confusing. Okay, so here's the back neck, and here's the center front, and then here is the front steek, which I cut open a while ago. And now you can see that actually the center front steek is not the center front of your body. It's just way off to the side here now. So that made a lot of sense after I cut open those steeks, thank goodness. And now I'm just knitting the whole body in the round while making increases here for the shoulders. Or sorry, for the sleeves. Yeah, the sleeve and the shoulder. So right now I'm doing the front and backs at the same time, and here is the sleeve cap. So I just love this method of construction. I haven't really tried it on, so hopefully it's working out, but I'm making the second smallest size. This one actually only comes in 5 sizes. The size I'm making is called M, and that's gonna give me a finished circumference of 44 inches. So the range of these 5 sizes is between a 39.5 inch and a 57.5 inch circumference. I kind of want something that's in between the small and medium, so we'll see once I get to like here if I want to do some waist shaping or something, because 44 inches would be about like 6-inch positive ease for me, and that might be a little too much. Sometimes when something's too not oversized enough on me, it just looks really frumpy. So yeah, we'll see how that's going later on. There's 80 projects on Ravelry. Oh, and there are some of the most beautiful color combinations. There's people who made the main background color a beautiful beige. There's a really nice green colorway version. Oh, there's also a vest pattern in this. So in case you don't want to do sleeves, you just want a Fair Isle vest. I think that would be beautiful. So the main 2 colors are this dark brown Uist wool. This is their Connacht base, not based. And then this kind of beige color is the one I harvested from an old sweater. And then I just have scrap yarn in light pink. This is like some gray. And then this red, I think, is Woolly Thistle Rambler yarn in the colorway Trillium. That red is really cool. I don't think I like this gray and pink, so I don't think I'm going to do that again. When this part of the chart comes up, I think I'll just change it to something else. And that's okay. It's kind of an experimental sweater situation. And this is going to be a cardigan. So I think, did I already tell you that once you start knitting in the round, there's only some center front steek stitches here. So there, so here's where I will cut later on. I'm using 3mm needles for this. The original yarn that Hannah Kim used in her pattern was Biche et Bouche Les Petite Lambs wool, which is a very, very thin yarn. I've worked with it before. It's like in between a lace and fingering weight, I want to say. But I think using a really thin yarn for this makes it look extra special. Like all those details just look so beautiful. Another thing I forgot to mention is at the beginning of the pattern, I did have to break the yarn about 1,000,000 times, but that's okay because after knitting this thing, where I never broke the yarn and had tons of problems, I was totally okay weaving in 20 ends before I even got to knitting the main colorwork charts. So yeah, now that I finished this one yesterday, so I guess this is my main whip right now. And those little baby sweaters. I really think this is gonna be nice for spring. And this Scottish merino is so soft and squishy. This has really bad stitch definition, just to warn you. It's kind of like a nubby, I don't even know how to describe the feeling of this. It's really unique. It's like a nubby little felted string that's really stretchy. So I think a colorwork project is perfect for this. And definitely be careful doing texture, because the one I frogged had beautiful texture and it just did not look as textured as it should have with this yarn. So I think that's all I have to talk about today. Hope you're still watching, and I hope you are entertained and were able to make some good progress on whatever project you're working on. I do love to hear about what projects you're working on in the comments and where you're from in the world, especially if you're a new viewer. I get a lot of inspiration about projects to add to my Ravelry queue based on what you guys are working on, so thank you so much if you shared some of those projects with me in the past. Make sure to hit the like button if you liked this, and also the subscribe button if you don't want to miss my next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you here again next time. Bye!